welcome or welcome back to my channel. Happy Bookmas Day 1. I'm so excited to be doing Bookmas again this year. I did it last year and I had a lot of fun with it. It really challenged myself and it was just so much fun. This year I'm doing it a little bit different. Instead of doing the 1st through the 12th, I'm going to be doing the 12th through the 14th if all goes to plan. I am really going to try very hard to do 12 days at a time. I am pre-filming these, but I still feel very rushed and like I'm not gonna have enough time. So I'm not like really putting myself on this like, you know, what would he, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like I'm not going to be extremely mad at myself if I don't get through all the way, but I am going to try my hardest. With that being said, our first video today for Bookmas is going to be an October and November wrap-up. Wrap-up videos are some of my favorites to film, and as this is going out on the 12th, I'm a little bit behind already, so we're going to wrap up the 5 books that I read throughout October and November. Not very good, I know it, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. This semester really kicked my ass. I just had a hard time with balancing school and my new job and stuff, so I didn't get to read as much, which is slightly sad, but with all of that being said, let's just go ahead and get right into it. Alrighty, the first book I finished in October was Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I don't really know what possessed me to pick up this book. I've had it sitting on my TBR cart for a very long time now. I just decided to pick it up one day. I was really in like a fantasy, like romantic mood, and I'm so glad I did. This book is very heavily marketed as a Hunger Games-y type book, and I will say that that makes a lot of sense. In this book, there are elites, and then there are ordinaries, and then there's mundanes, and that is like categorized as like your power that you are kind of like born with. So like the elites have very high sought after powers, and then the ordinaries have no powers, and the mundanes have mundane powers, kind of like mind reading or whatever. So that is how the magic system, I guess, is set up in here. And a long time ago in this world, the ordinaries were killed and banished because they thought that the ordinaries would dull the elites' powers because they didn't have any powers. So in this book, we're following Peyton, she is a mundane and she is a psychic to other people, but she actually is an ordinary and she has 0 powers. And she ends up running into the prince, and she steals for her money to take care of her and her friend who live together. They're homeless in Lou Alley, so she has to steal like their form of currency in order to make it and have food. So she decides she's gonna steal from the prince, and she does so successfully. Then she sees the prince a little bit later on, and he is like getting his ass whooped really. She helps him with her power because she is ordinary, so she's not affected by the attackers. And this kind of sets off the kingdom. Like this random girl saved the prince, and then she ends up getting forced into the trials, and these trials are where like the Hunger Games aspects come into it. They are where a group of, not really children, but a group of people are forced to use their powers in different, I think it's there's a certain amount of number of trials, and then you either die or you're alive, and then there's also one winner. So she gets forced to go on to the trials, and in those trials is the Prince Kai, who she saved in Lou Alley. That was a really long-winded explanation of this book. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars, and I know that there's a lot of discourse going around about it being very similar to another fantasy series, and in my opinion, that just makes me want to read the other fantasy series more because I'm loving this series a lot. I love Kai Azar. Like genuinely, this was just really fun. It's a pretty thick book in my opinion, but it's very fast paced. I didn't want to put it down. As soon as you get to the trials, you're like, literally I was eating it up. I genuinely could not get enough of it. I also really love Peyton. She's just such a strong female main character. And dude, the ending, I can't even I honestly kind of forgot about the ending. It was like a bad trauma that you just like forget about because you don't want to relive it. That's what the ending of this book did to me. Like genuinely, bro, I was tearing up a little bit. And then that leads us straight into my second book of October, which was Powerful, not Powerless, Powerful, also by Lauren Roberts. This is a novella between the first and the second book. Why are we mowing? Why are we mowing right now? He finally left. Anyways, like I said, this is the next book I read. It's called Powerful. It's also by Lauren Roberts. It is a novella. It takes place a little bit in book 1, but it's right before book 2. So this is basically 1.5. And in this book, we're following Peyton's friend that I was talking about earlier, Adina. Like I said, Adina and Peyton are homeless in Lou Alley. They literally live on a street, and they kind of work together to use each other's skills to just make it and survive. So like I said, Peyton steals money that buys the cloth for Adina to make clothing. So she is a seamstress and she's really dang good at it. But in this book, we're kind of following Adina navigate once Peyton has been taken away for the trials. She does not know how to steal like Peyton does. Like that is just how she normally gets her food and her money. So she is really simply all alone and has nowhere to run to. That is until she runs into Mac, who also lives in Loot Alley. I don't want to go much farther because then I'll probably be spoiling the first book and this book. And so I gave this book 4 stars. I would probably honestly give it 4.5 stars. I think I'm genuinely emotional about this book. I genuinely haven't started thinking about this book since I read it. I actually listened to it and that was a nice touch. But this book is extremely emotional. I don't think I've ever had such feelings for a novella before. I really adored this book. I didn't know I cared about Adina's story until I started this, and I was like, okay, like I love Adina so much, and this book is honestly just a wild ride. And then I read this book starting in October, but I finished it in November. So that is Soul Searching by Lila Sage. I'm gonna be so honest with you. I don't have a recollection of reading this. Like I know I read it, and I think I read/listened to it, or I think I might have just straight listened to it, but I don't really have a recollection of it. So I'm so sorry. In this book, we're following Collins, who has like this ability to see and talk to ghosts ever since she was little. She was born in Sweetwater Peak, and she has to go back there because her parents' antique shop is getting sold out from underneath them. And there she needs somewhere to crash because she doesn't want to live with her sister or her parents. So she crashes with, I think it's her sister's friend, Brady Cooper. And Brady Cooper is also not from Sweetwater Peak. He just wanted a change of pace. So she crashes on his couch. She is trying to navigate her family's antique shop. Also, her powers have gone missing, and that is kind of one of the big reasons why she went back to Sweetwater Peak. She just doesn't really know it yet. She misses that connection she has, especially with this one ghost in particular that her and her sister have known since they were little. Like I said, I genuinely, like, I think that's the extent of the summary I can give you, and I'm sure there's more that I'm missing. I don't remember reading this, and I gave it 3 stars, which I feel like is just not fair. We're gonna keep it at 3 stars because I thought it was cute. I thought the paranormal thing was fun, I guess. Like, it makes sense. Like, this is heavily pushed as a very spooky time, spooky season book, and that's when I read it, and I think that it was perfect for that. But like I said, I feel like if I don't remember the relationship and like the banter and their chemistry, then I probably didn't really care for it that much. But I do still think that it was a fun read, and it's probably my fault for listening to it. I have a bad habit of not really remembering the books that I listen to, so I think it was a fun read. I love Lila Sage's writing. It was very, very fast-paced, which is what you get with her books. But I will say it's not my favorite out of her, you know, lineup, because I really love the Rebel Blue Ranch series, which they do make an appearance in this, which was fun. I remember like low-key like turning up the volume because I was like, oh my god, they're talking about my favorite people, like turn up the volume. jump scare, change of lighting, change of background, change of day. I was editing this video and I realized that I completely forgot to talk about one of the books that I read in November, even though I kept saying that I read 5 books in the last 2 months. I noticed that there's only 4, so I was like, let me get back on here and talk about it because it was one of my favorites. That book is no other than 107 Days by Kamala Harris. If you don't know, which I'm sure you do, Kamala Harris was Biden's vice president, and in the last presidential election, she ran as the Democratic nominee. So this book, as the title says, is her counting down the days from getting the call that Biden was dropping out to election day in November. And she only had 107 days to campaign for herself, which is not normal, especially when your opponent has had 4 years, the whole time you've been in office as vice president, to campaign for his campaign. Campaign for his campaign, yes. Anyways, so for example, on 107 Days, we are getting the behind the scenes of what it was like for her to get that call from Biden saying that he's actually going to be dropping out of the election. And then in the days between, we're getting things like what she was doing as vice president and how that was kind of taking away from her having to be able to campaign, or what was happening on this day, or all the different rallies she went to, stuff like that. And so we're getting the countdown until the very last day. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I actually did listen to this book, which I think is always the best to do when someone actually narrates their own book. I love to listen to it. The only reason I didn't rate it higher was because I think some of it was a little bit slow. There were days that she went into that I feel like we just didn't really need. Like they would be like a page or 2 short, and I just felt like it was unnecessary. And then also on the flip side, there were days that I wish she went more into. I just really liked the different, you know, not perspective that it gave. Like I got to be able to see her run through her eyes, and I think that that was really extraordinary and fun to see. There were a lot of things happening behind the scenes that obviously we don't get to see that I was very intrigued to learn. I definitely think that if you are into politics, this might be a great choice of a book for you. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I definitely think that you should listen to it, like I said, because she narrates it, but you are getting more behind the scenes looks of what is going on. And I don't know, it's really cool to see how she did so well for only having 107 days. And I think that that's really cool to see and like actually get the step-by-step process of that, because that's never been done before. Anyways, future me is done talking. I'm gonna go ahead and put you back onto the first video so you can watch about the last book that I read in November. And then last but not least, in the month of November, I read Reckless by Lauren Roberts. As you can tell, I've had a bit of an obsession with this series, like I said. This is book 2 in the series. I'm not gonna give you the summary because it literally spoils everything. So I'm not gonna give you a summary. I feel like it's obvious that you're gonna know we're following Peyton. Like Peyton is not gonna die. Like she's the main character of the book, of a fantasy. She's just not gonna die as the main character. Like I think we all can know that. So in this book, we're following Peyton after the trials, and that is all I'm gonna give you. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I thought it was really cute. It was just very, very long. There were parts of it that were so redundant, and I just didn't care enough. It was still very fast paced and I couldn't put it down, just like the first one, which is probably my own obsession with the series and these characters. But like I said, there was just so much of it that could be cut down. And the ending was, I didn't guess it until the very last second, which I felt like kind of ruined the fun. I still was like strung along though as we went, so I guess I had a little bit more fun time than anyone else, because I was reading reviews and people were like, oh my god, this was so predictable, and I knew that this was coming from the second chapter, and I was like, what? Like I didn't know until literally the last moment. But it was fun. I gave it, like I said, I gave it 3.5 stars. I think that it sets up, hopefully sets up the third book perfectly. I'm actually in the middle of it right now, so I will let you know how that goes. If you also love the series like I do, stay tuned for later in BOOKMAS, because I am gonna have a video coming out that is a part of my bookish baking series, and it's gonna have everything to do with this series. I'm not gonna spoil it too much because I want you guys to come check it out with me. I love that little mini series that I do on my channel, and definitely stay tuned. I hope you guys will come watch it and kind of fangirl over this series with me because I am really thoroughly enjoying it. But that is all I have for you for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it's kind of boring. I only read 5 books in the last 2 months, but I also feel like it gives us a little bit more one-on-one time to talk about each book in more specifics if I remember them. Sorry, Lila Sage. Thank you guys so much for watching. Come back tomorrow for Bookmas Day 2. I hope to see you there, and bye.